Hey, what's going on, everybody? Movie Phantom here, and yes, Saturday, not gonna lie, really late night, but yeah, bringing you the Movie Phantom's horror review. We got a good double feature, good-ish double feature. We'll get to that in a second. We got the Body Snatcher, the Boris Karloff, Bela Lugosi horror classic, and we have Dracula, which it's mostly associated with the title. The full title, Bram Stoker's Dracula. I'm not playing ball with that, though. Like, literally, Bram Stoker, wrote the book, and so every version should be called Bram Stoker's Dracula, but for some reason, the 92 version is mostly associated with that full title. Go figure, but I'm referring to it just as Dracula. So, let's get right into this, guys. Up first, we got the Body Snatcher. Basic premise is, young guy, he's it's a medical school, and this dude he's thinking about kind of walking away from being a doctor or whatnot. And what happens is they basically the guy there's like the main doctor and there's all the students. He kind of bumps one of the students up, the one who's trying to walk away from it, up to his assistant, and they're using actual cadavers for lessons and whatnot. However, the cadavers are coming from grave robbing because there's just not enough of these, because typically they get from, donations or, when homeless people die or, whatever, that's how they get them, but there's just not enough to go around, so they resort to grave robbing. And, of course, they go to Boris Karloff, and he's kind of a shady underground kind of guy. So that's kind of the basic setup, and so I had no idea what this was. I was aware that there was 7 movies, I believe, that Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi did together. And this, if I'm correct, and if I'm not, crucify me. I think this is the last one they did together. So, anyways, I watched it, and I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of slow going at first. Because I knew nothing about this movie going into it. I literally, this is a blind watch. I went right into it. And it was a little slow going at first. And I believe that this is Val Lewton, I believe. This may have been a Val Lewton movie, RKO Pictures. However, once it gets going, because there's a whole subplot where, like I said, the student is thinking about walking away, but he, the teacher, convinces him, hey, stick around, please, And when he does stick around, they come across this little girl who's in a wheelchair. And she just had an accident 3 years prior to this. I think she flung from a horse or a carriage crash or something like that, but she can't walk. And so they, her and her mom are, trying to convince this young doctor, hey, the student, to operate on him or to help them get operation. He talks to the doctor. Of course, the doctor's kind of, Boris Karloff talks to him, and you can tell there's definitely some kind of dark history with these two. And Karloff gets the teacher, after kind of talking to him and persuading him and maybe even a little bit of blackmail to go ahead and do this operation. Now, I did say it was Karloff and Lugosi. Lugosi does not have much of a role at all in this movie. And from what I understand, back when they were both these heavyweights of horror, and even though they're, sorry, I gotta. This is not the Phantom digging for nose gold. I have my mustache is just kind of, yeah, Even though they're these two titans of horror, it's like when they first was doing a movie, that first movie they did together was just phenomenal. They were both kind of equally billed, but at some point, Karloff became the top star, and Lugosi just got all these supporting parts, and that's what it is. He's literally he's at the school, I guess is what you call it. It doesn't feel like a school though. I mean, it is a school, I guess, but it didn't really, not your typical school, I guess, not your traditional school. But he's like the caretaker or some shit. Like I said, he's in it. He's only in it for a few scenes, and then but there is one scene, and I guess I'll drop some spoilers right here. They were there's an epic scene with Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi where Lugosi's trying to basically blackmail Karloff. Because at this point, people are winding up dead or missing, and then of course the cadavers are showing up at the school. And of course, Karloff, he's clearly behind it and everything. Well, Lugosi figures it out, so he decides he's going to try to blackmail him. And so Karloff, who's initially kind of pissed about it, you can tell he's pissed. He lets it roll off. He's like, no. Won't we work together? And of course, Lugosi's like, oh yeah, sure. And he's like, well, here's what we'll do. And Lugosi keeps asking, like, how are we going to do this? And he's like, oh, we'll get him drunk. And of course, as he's saying this, he's getting Lugosi drunk. Like, he's just like constantly like refilling his glass. And he's like, we'll have him come in here, we'll get him drunk, and we'll take him. And he's like, well, how are you going to do it? And then he fucking starts strangling him. And dude, it is just, or he puts his hand over his mouth and nose. And dude, one of the best, it's literally the best scene in the movie. It's so, and once again, it could just be the fact that it's Karloff and Lugosi together. Which, as much as I like Lugosi, and don't get me wrong, Lugosi was a hell of an actor, I gotta go to Karloff, dude. Karloff, to me, is, from that entire, that golden age of horror, if you will, is my favorite actor from that whole thing. Because, he had such a range. And he definitely shows off his acting muscle here. I just love the character he plays here. But, that scene alone was just so effing brilliant. Damn good. The guy, and I know I'm really sorry because it was Wednesday when I watched this movie, and I forget now exactly who the other guy was. The guy that plays the I could easily go in there and look it up. I'm not going to. The guy who plays the teacher though, he reminded me a lot of Basil Rathbone. It's not him at all. But he just had that face. Like as I'm watching him, it's like. I started calling him Battle. I started calling him Sherlock Holmes, but that guy did an excellent job too. Like I love that dude's acting, and the scenes with him and Karloff, because like I said, Karloff's kind of got he's kind of blackmailing him and extorting him or whatever, and it was awesome too. So I definitely dug that. Those were really the two top performers were Karloff and that guy. The guy who plays the main character, and I don't remember his name right now. He didn't do a bad job, but it was just like, I don't know, compared to those two, he wasn't really pulling his weight as much. So the ending to this thing I thought was pretty cool too, because at one point, like I said, because Karloff is kind of blackmailing him. Well, there's some spoilers, guys. So, which I don't know. I feel like anybody who's watching this show is clearly doing it just because they're fans of me. So I don't know if you guys have seen this movie yet or if you haven't. I guess I should have said earlier at the very beginning, the 13th Wolfman gave me a huge list of horror films, and I'm kind of getting around to that now. This is from an old list right here. Both these movies are, so thank you, 13th Wolfman. The ending of this, so what happens is, finally, because he's getting to a point now where he is just, like the doctor, the doctor's just like, I'm done, Karloff, I'm fucking done, leave me alone. And Karloff's like, oh, you're not done. We're in this together forever, And like he even tells him that the reason he keeps this over him, all these dirty dealings they're doing, is because this is all he has. Like if Karloff could not, blackmail this rich, successful, wealthy, whatever doctor, all this fancy schooling and whatnot, it's like he's got nothing else going on for him. So this is all he has. He needs this. And eventually they get into a scuffle, and then of course the doctor kills him. At that point, forward, it slowed down a lot. Like I said, because early it was a little slow, but then once the story gets going, once you kind of realize what the plot is, because it does take a while to kind of get to okay, here's what we're doing. Once the plot kicks in, it's fucking awesome. But then it just at the point where they get in a scuffle, Karloff gets killed in the scuffle. The doctor kills him. It just kind of stops, because at this point now, the girl starts walking again. It felt almost like at the end, they're almost like they're wrapping it up, which I thought I was okay with. But it kept going. I was like, oh, okay, well, shit, where are we going with this? And so there is kind of a good 5-10 minute chunk there where you're just kind of like, I thought so personally. But the ending comes with, the little girl walks again, so the assistant, I guess he's kind of like I wouldn't say the main character, but he's definitely the protagonist in this thing, goes to tell the doctor. At this point, the doctor's just getting drunk, and he's just like, But it's not like anger drunk. He's celebrating. He got rid of Karloff or whatnot. But he tells him, well, thing is, as they're talking at a bar, you realize that this guy's going to take over what Karloff did. He's like, he's done with Karloff, but now he's like, we're still grave robbing. Like that's all there is to it. Like we're going, continue. And of course, the student or the assistant don't really care for that, but he's like, well, fuck it. And so they decide to go to this, as at the bar, a funeral just let out or whatever, and so they're like, we're gonna go to, and it's like a couple towns over or whatnot. We're gonna go over there and dig up this fresh corpse. And it was this woman that said her sister died. So they go over there, they dig it up, and they put it in the carriage. And as they're coming back, you hear Karloff like saying, I forget what he says. He's but to the extent like, you're never gonna get rid of me, you're never gonna get rid of me. And the whole time, the doctor is just like, you hear that. And of course, the assistant's like, I don't hear nothing. And of course, it's raining, storming, shit like that. Well, what happens is they pull over. And of course, the body keeps falling on the doctor. And of course, they pull over. And of course, when he goes to lift up the hood, instead of it being, this old woman's sister, it's fucking Karloff. Which at this point, you should have known, like, it's clearly not. It's in his imagination because he heard Karloff, way back there. But he freaks out. Of course, and of course, the horses go. The student, or the assistant, he falls off the carriage. And of course, this guy is there. Of course, he has Karloff is bouncing off of, or he gets to the other side, he's bouncing off of him. And of course, the carriage goes out of control, and it flips, and boom, crashes, and kills him. Of course, whenever the assistant finally gets up up the rainy, wet, muddy road, and looks at the wreckage, you see it wasn't Karloff at all. It was just an old woman's body. But of course, that guy, kind of a telltale heart kind of thing, where his conscience, I guess, if you will, or whatever it was, got to him, and he got the best of him, and he died. Body Snatcher was an awesome movie. I highly recommend it if you're a fan of, like, these old horror films. It's RKO. It just, to me, it always has, like, any black and white film from like the 30s and 40s. This kind of has a Universal feel to it for me for some reason. So it's not Universal, but it definitely when you see like Frankenstein and Dracula in the same movie together, or sorry, Frankenstein's monster and Dracula together. You can't help but think horror or Hammer, or god damn it, sorry, Universal. But no, really good. Like I said, it was slow in parts. Overall, big thumbs up. So I would recommend it. Definitely would. Up next, we got Dracula. And of course, we all know the story of Dracula by this point, where, the Count moves into London, baby. And, he's coming after Mina. His love, and all that stuff. As a kid, I love this movie. Like, if you would have asked me, even a week ago, before I did this video, what do you think of Dracula? I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. Good stuff. Real good stuff. I liked it. Remember it being a tad long, which is not really all that long. I mean, it's like 2 hours or something. But, as a kid, I was like, oh yeah, I love it. Freaking awesome. However, watch it this time around, and I'm not gonna lie, it was a rough watch to get through. Like, I was just like, what the fuck? Francis Ford Coppola, it's 92, my girlfriend watched it, Maya, not here tonight, but she watched it with me, and even she was just kind of like, she didn't mind it, but you can just tell, because she was just like, yeah, because she watched part of Body Snatcher with me. She's kind of in her own little world. She had her phone and a book or whatnot, but she was kind of looking at the screen and watch Body Snatcher every now and then. With this movie, you can just tell she was just like, I'm falling asleep during this, and it was a rough watch. In fact, like it took me a couple times to get through it, because I fell asleep the first time I watched it. I was like, fuck. I was like, well, maybe I'm just tired. No, it was just dull. Like, I don't know. I don't remember it being that boring. My main problem, I guess, with Dracula will be this time around, I guess, watching it, present day critic in front of you watching it. The storyline, I guess, at this point, initially, fuck, I don't know, what am I trying to say here? Okay, the first time I watched Nosferatu. Let's take a little side trip real quick. Just bear with me, please. The first time I watched Nosferatu, the 1920 whatever version of Dracula, the bootleg version of Dracula, if you will, bored as shit with it, because I was like, at this point, I've seen the Dracula story so many times, like, it. Harker's gonna go, Transylvania. At some point, Dracula's gonna move into town. Lucy's getting killed, coming back, and then he's gonna go after Mina. Van Helsing's gonna come in, save the day, movie ends. And you're just like, okay. And literally, it's like every version is that. Yes, there are alterations or whatever, but still, it's still Dracula. And I remember the first time I watched Nosferatu, just did not care for it. Like, literally just like, oh, this is boring as shit. And it wasn't until upon other, viewings, I enjoyed it. Now, I watched this before, this is like one of my early, viewings of Dracula. In fact, I think this might be my first version of Dracula I've ever seen, period. Like a legit Dracula movie. Because it's 92, so I was like in the second grade when this thing came out. But as I watch it now, I just did not care for the direction. And Francis Ford Coppola is a hell of a director. I'm a big Coppola fan. Godfather. Fucking the Vietnam one. Apocalypse Now. Love Apocalypse Now. It's all my favorite war movie. Well, no, I gotta give to Inglourious Bastard now. But I'm getting sidetracked. Point is, Coppola's a hell of a director. And here, it just seemed like the directing was just kind of all over the place. Like, he almost had this very... I don't want to say music video, because that kind of brings up quick edits. It was like a 1980s music video. It was just a lot of shit going on at once, and I'm just like, dude, just tell us the story. It just seemed like it was just going, and it wasn't like for a movie that felt like it was being dragged out. It just jumped around too quickly for me. Like especially early on, there's a lot of shit going on. You got Jonathan going to Transylvania. You got not Lucy, Mina, played by Winona Ryder at home. You got it just seemed like it's just jumping around quite a bit, and I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying like I was confused with it because clearly I know the story, but this time it's like, fuck, man, just pick a narrative and stay with it. It just seemed like it jumped around quite a bit. I didn't care for that. Talk about performances real quick. And don't get me wrong, like you had Anthony Hopkins as Van Helsing. Carrie Ewell's, how you pronounce that? The dude from Princess Bride and Saw and Liar Liar and Twister. Damn good actor. He plays it. He's one of the dudes who's like, trying to get in the pants. Or no, he's the one who's going to marry Lucy is what it was. Gary Oldman as Dracula. All good performances. Winona Ryder, does okay as Mina. Let's talk about Keanu Reeves as Jonathan Harker. What the fuck? I have never been a big Keanu Reeves fan. Now, here's the thing. I like Keanu Reeves' movies. I think Speed's solid. Matrix is good. I don't think he's a good actor. And somehow he falls ass backwards into these really good roles, and you're like, how? If anybody out there wants to dispute how good his acting is, just watch the first fucking scene he's in this movie. It's atrocious. It is fucking atrocious. It is just... He puts on this really bad phony accent, and it's just like his character is not believable at all. I don't know. It's a joke. So that kept taking me out. Every time I kept seeing him come up on screen, I'm just like, oh dude, this guy's bad. Like this guy's just fucking bad news. Once again, and I will say right now, this is definitely not an action pack. And I don't want to say action pack in the sense like I need action, but it just seems like it's very dull. Like, I don't know, it felt like, even with like the old Universal Dracula, and don't get me wrong, that version is not great. Like, I don't know, I'm definitely more of a Hammer fan, but it just seemed like, at least with that one, there was stuff going on. Like, it just seemed like it wasn't quite boring. Whereas this one's like, it's colorful and bright, and you got titties everywhere, and it's just like, it's got the blood. I mean, not a lot, but, the scenes it does, it's there. It just seemed like it was just, I don't know, I was bored with it. Like, I'm just like, oh, fuck, let's just move on. Let's keep going. And, I mean, don't get me wrong, I like the production of this, the scale, because, like, it still retains this gothic horrorness, but it also has, like, this very elegant, grand feel to it. It has an epic, when Dracula came out, I remember, like, I think Frankenstein came out after that, and then they, I think there was even a Dr. Jekyll Mr. Hyde, but it seemed like they were trying to like remake all these old Universal movies, but give it this very grand, majestic look. Just very. I don't know what I'm looking for. I guess I'll go elegant. I guess I'll stick with elegant. Just one of these kind of like major. I don't know. The look of it just looked like it was just like very. I don't know. There's another word I'm looking for here. The Phantom is sorry. It's literally it's like midnight right now. Like, clearly, I missed the Saturday deadline. We're in Sunday right now. But anyway, no, it's literally, it was just, it was very, I'm just going to go for, just the look of it, just very rich, and the production was just very, elegant, god damn it. So anyways, so like I said, the look of it had nothing to do with it. Like, I liked the look of it. It was just the pacing itself. Like, it just seemed like it jumped around. It was slow moving, but at the same time, it moved around. Like, the pacing was just kind of uneven for me. Once again, there's more titties in it than I expected. So if you're a fan of horror and a fan of titties, And you watch this thing. Don't get me wrong, you'll get some titties. Like literally, like Lucy shows her tits like 3 or 4 scenes. You're like, holy shit, Lucy. Dracula's brides, their big old titties are hanging out. And you're just like, all right. You do get a weird like a pseudo bestiality scene, which I do not remember from the original. Which I guess I was or not from the original, but the first time I watched it, I was young. I literally I guess second grade. You just when you're second grade, you just watch stuff and take it all in, just think everything's awesome at that time, and then you watch it later on, you're like, oh wow, that's a disappointment. The scene where Mina walks outside and there's Lucy, and she's getting fucked by Dracula, but Dracula's kind of in wolf form at the time. He's not quite a full wolf, but he's not yet a man, he's in that in-between stage, just fucking the shit out of her, and you're like, yep, here we go. Gary Oldman's performance wasn't bad, I mean, because I think Gary Oldman did good, but the Dracula character himself, like the writing, dude, very whiny. And I know, like, everybody's like, well, Dracula's been that way. I'm like, yeah, but, like, Bela Lugosi didn't whine that much. Christopher Lee didn't whine at all. And, like, but here you got fucking Gary Oldman just fucking crying in every fucking scene. Like, I don't know. I'm just like, dude, quit being a little emo bitch and, like, just fucking nut up. Dude, you're fucking Dracula. You are fucking Dracula. But, like, every scene was just him, like, he's like, I'm in love now, and it was just, that got pretty old pretty fucking quick, too. Like, literally, I'm just like, I don't know. Like, I would love to see a Dracula version come out where Dracula's just fucking heartless. Like, granted, how am I saying he can't just be like, I miss, my old lady from, before I turned or whatever. But at the same time, it's like, dude, you're a fucking monster. Like, act like it. Act sinister. He just acts too much like a pussy. Like, I don't know. Wasn't film the fact that he cries, like, in almost every scene and whining and all that stuff. So the ending was a little anticlimactic too, because it just seemed like the whole time they're doing this crazy chase, because like it was something like she could like she's been bitten, so it's like they're he can tell they're coming after him, and he's trying to flee back to Transylvania, so they're like, well, we'll beat him there or something like that, and they never beat him there. Like, it seems like every time they're trying to, like, he knows, so somehow he can just get ahead. I don't know. It was ridiculous. They were just kind of muddled, thrown together, whatever, montage of a scene of them, racing to Transylvania. But when they get there, it's just like, instead of this big epic battle, one dude stakes him, and then he goes in there and he takes forever to fucking die, and then Winona Ryder just pushes a knife further into his heart and fucking kills him. That was it, and you're just like, really? And like at one point, they're all like, as he's going in there, they're like, this is fucking Dracula. This is like the king of vampires, and like Van Helsing is like telling the other guy, like, on his whole back, yeah, he's fine, he's dead. Like, he knows, he's just like, I know he's fucking dead. I'm not gonna check, I'm not verifying this kill. Fuck it, and they just let him go in there. And of course, she did pull a gun out, but I'm like, really? When this bitch turns around, just take a gun away and just punch her one, It's like it's like late 1800s. Women had no rights. You can punch them in the face and it was okay. So it's like when she pulls a gun out on them, and they're like, really, bitch? I was like, all right, fine. And then as soon as she turns around to help Dracula into, like, his house, I was like, bam! And then I would have made sure Dracula's dead, but they don't, and it's just a ridiculous, prolonged death scene where it's just Dracula whining and, oh my God, I love you, and I'm Dracula, and oh my God, it's ever living life. I do believe this truly, that when this movie did come out and it was a hit and whatever, and we saw vampires in this light, we're like, well, we gotta do an Interview with the Vampire now. Let's get a couple of, and don't get me wrong, I love Interview with the Vampire, but it's definitely a homo fucking movie. So, it's a guilty pleasure. I love Interview with the Vampire, but yeah, it's gay as shit, and you can't say it's not. And I do feel like, after we saw Gary Oldman crying and whining, we're like, yep, we can handle it now. We can do it, so let's get that in production. And they did. So yeah, I don't know. Upon reviewing Dracula for a second time, I may have seen it 3 times. I think I watched it once when I was in high school, if I'm thinking correctly. And I must not have been paying attention. I don't know what the fuck. Because there's a lot of things I thought was in this movie that wasn't. And so I think I was getting confused with another movie. So I don't know. When I watched it this time, I was kind of surprised on certain scenes. And I was like, oh, wow. It's like, I don't remember this scene at all. Or I thought this happened and it didn't. So I don't know. It was almost like watching it for the first time. And didn't care for it. Just did not care for it. Wasn't feeling it. So yeah, the best part about it is, if anybody who watched The Simpsons, the Treehouse of Horror, I forget which Treehouse of Horror it was, one of the early ones, they do this, they do the whole, like, Dracula thing. That's the first thing Maya said. She's like, oh, that looks like Mr. Burns, because the way his hair was. I'm like, oh yeah, that's where they got from. And she's like, oh. So that was it. Like I said, visually this movie's, it's top notch, but yeah, just the rest of it, I just did not care for. I was not a fan. I gotta give it a thumbs down. Actually, I'm gonna give it a thumbs down. Like, not even gonna be like, nah, wasn't a fan. So yeah, that's the Body Snatcher and Dracula. And like I said, the next few horror films are gonna be the ones that 13th Wolfman actually, gave me a list on. So I'm finally getting to that list, my man. So I'll be, hitting up some 13th Wolfman suggested horror films. So yeah, Body Snatcher, definitely check that out. Dracula, you can find better versions. I would even recommend Dracula Dead and Loving It over I'm just saying, that's definitely a better movie, I think, in my opinion. But no, this movie definitely has that high end, production values, and it's definitely like a more, I guess, a movie for adults, I guess you can say. And I don't mean that like in a sleazy, mature. No, but it seems like it's a grown up movie as opposed to like the Universal movies are, literally they were more catered to kids. Kids go there on Saturday, afternoon matinee, and just like, they were clearly pandering to kids, where this one definitely is made for, adults. But I don't know. I don't care how adultish it is. I just didn't care for it. But it does have titties. So once again, if you do watch it and you're just looking for titties, if you're like the Mr. Skin of horror, you can watch this and you get some titties. So, except for Winona Ryder, the ones that you want to see. I'm just like, well, let's see her. Then she don't show them. Fucking bitch. So there we go. Body Snatcher, check it out. Dracula, don't. Hey, I'm the movie Phantom, and